You can add a little more, a little less, whatever. I don't even worry about it, you know, whatever, because you're always going to be using it. So, put that in there. It's a half a cup. Okay, and then we add our yeast. Okay, so you add your yeast last. You just pour it all in there. There's like 10 billion yeast per package, something like that. And see, the good thing, especially in times like this with the virus and everybody having to stay at home, is it makes its own yeast. So if you didn't have yeast coming up, it still has yeast in it. So the longer you let it sit, the more it's going to rise and stuff like that. But you won't have to add a whole lot of yeast. But either way, so you just stir it all up. The yeast is going to eat that sugar and then convert it into alcohol, just like you make any wines or alcohols or anything like that. Okay, so we're going to let it sit on the counter, and we're going to stir it every day for about 3 days. And every day you'll come in, and you'll see the alcohol separate from the flour and water. It'll be a clear liquid on top. And so we just come back in and stir that in every day, you know. And like I said, it could get messy. Sometimes mine does, because the yeast really get active, and it will overflow. Okay, so that's why I always keep it on a plate or anything like that. So after you get her stirred up real good, which I'm going to come back and stir it, that's going to make a video of that. So we're going to put our cheesecloth on top. You can double it if you want to. I don't. It likes the air. It doesn't matter. We're going to put that on top. And you can either just put a rubber band around it, but I just loosely put it in there like, I push my finger in there like that, and then go like that, and that'll leave some room, okay? Because it could come out, like I said. So you just leave that like that. We're going to stir it for 3 days. Then we put it in the refrigerator. What happens from that point is every week, if you can think about it, or at least by every 2 weeks, you want to go in there, add a teaspoon of sugar, and maybe a tablespoon of flour. Stir it up. This is if you're not making bread. If you're not making any bread, you got to keep those yeast going and everything. You got to keep making the stuff. So the way to do it, take a tablespoon out, put a tablespoon back. Put a teaspoon of sugar back in, and it'll keep going. Okay, let's say you're making bread. We're going to make our bread now. So what we want to do is use at least a quarter cup of this, if not more. So once it's all stirred up, you pull it out of the fridge, and you let it get to room temperature. It's real important to let it get to room temperature. Let it get to room temperature. You're going to pour your quarter off, and that's going to count. That is going to count as a quarter cup of your liquid. So whatever your bread recipe calls for, let's say a cup of water, well, that's going to be a quarter cup of your water right there, okay? So that's a quarter cup of your liquid. And so then what we do from that moment on is we put a quarter cup of flour back in and a teaspoon, let it sit there for 1 day, stir it back in, put it back in the fridge, and repeat the process. Now, you could do this forever. You could do it for 10 years, 20 years, but you have to keep feeding it. You have to keep it going. It's really important that I stress that, because if you don't, it'll just die off, and then it'll just be, you know, kind of soured, and it just won't be sourdough bread. I mean, it'll be soured, but it just doesn't work right. So you want to always manipulate it. So you're either always making bread, or you're either always adding a little bit back in it to keep it going. Okay, from that moment on, people used to make big batches of this and then give it away with their recipe for bread as a present, like at Christmas time or stuff. So you give somebody a quarter cup of the starter in a little jar, and you hand it to them, and you tell them the whole process, and then they make their own, and then your starter can go and go and go and go and go, and it never ends, and it's really a neat deal. So I used to make starter, and I always had starter all the time, but I kind of quit making bread because I just got lazy or whatever. But I go through these deals where I make a lot of breads and cheeses and stuff, and sometimes I don't. Anyway, I wanted to get this going because you'll see in the next couple of days, we'll do more videos to show you how it separates and stuff. And then we'll just make a small batch in the bread machine just to show you, because it's still sourdough bread. It's still going to have that sour taste to it. And then we'll make the real sourdough bread that, like I said, would make even Jesus Christ happy, because, man, I'm going to tell you what, it really is something to see. So anyway, sourdough starter, keep it going, give it to your friends, pass it along, and I will put recipes and up and all that stuff to make the bread at a later time. This is just the starter. So hope you enjoy.